You believe the goal is to be seen, to be heard, to shout down the competition. But I'm going to tell you a dangerous truth. The moment you open your mouth, you're leaking your power. Every rushed answer, every needless argument, every panicked reply drains your reservoir of presence and makes you weaker. This is the story of the man who won everything by firing his own voice. He didn't just mute his phone, he deleted every shouting app, packed a bag, and chose a punishing 5 months of total deep silence. He was voluntarily plunging into a mental detox. The silence didn't bring instant peace. His thoughts grew loud, his regrets became clear, and his mind tried to break him with the weight of years of distraction. Yet when he returned, his silence wasn't a void. It was the loudest, most magnetic, and most powerful statement he had ever made. The world didn't just listen, it leaned in. Here's the deal. Before you watch exactly how he achieved this radical transformation, pause this video right now and ask yourself one profound question. Are you addicted to noise, or are you ready for true, unshakable power? Commit to watching this entire story, because at the very end, we'll give you a simple, non-negotiable challenge that will change the way everyone hears you. His first move was an act of surgical separation. He turned off his phone, deleted every app that shouted for a piece of his attention, and moved to a small, isolated cabin at the edge of the deepest forest he could find. He had cut the umbilical cord to distraction. The first days were agony. The absolute silence pressed against him like heavy, suffocating air. Without the familiar comfort of constant digital chatter or human noise, he was forced into a cage with the one person he had been running from, himself. He realized how deeply, how criminally, he had been addicted to distraction. Without the comfort of easy chatter to buffer the reality of his life, his thoughts grew sharp and loud. His regrets became crystal clear. The ghosts of old mistakes, the unfinished business, the lies he told himself came knocking on the inside of his skull. He felt the overwhelming urge to run back to the familiar, comforting chaos of the city. But something deeper, a desperate need for change, said, "Stay, don't run anymore. Let silence speak." On the 7th morning, the shift began. He didn't wake to the jarring, urgent anxiety of an alarm, but to the gentle, persistent rhythm of the birds outside his window. His light source wasn't an aggressive blue screen, but the calm, diffused light of the rising sun. For the first time, he noticed the simple, profound sound of his own breath, steady, alive, enough. He wasn't chasing, he was existing. He began to sit by the lake each dawn, saying nothing, doing nothing, holding no expectation. He simply allowed the wind and the water to carry his relentless, anxious questions away. The noise of his mind didn't disappear, but the urgency did. What gradually filled the empty space wasn't the dull ache of boredom, it was awareness. And awareness, he realized with a quiet, revolutionary certainty, was the purest form of power. Back in the city, the silence he created was anything but quiet. People wondered what had happened to him. His old competitors chuckled, saying he'd finally failed or retreated in fear. Others called him strange or weak. They didn't understand the work he was doing. But here is the critical lesson. Silence is dangerous to those who live on noise. It forces them to look inward. Silence reflects them like a mirror, and when you can't stand the truth of your own chaos, mirrors can be cruel. They sent desperate messages. Reporters came looking, and lucrative offers poured in for him to tell his story. They wanted him to break his silence and return to the noise. He gave them nothing. He stayed quiet. His total absence of commentary, his profound stillness, became the loudest, most attention-demanding thing he'd ever said. Months later, he walked back into the city, not as the same man who ran away, but as someone who carried peace like armor. The noise of the city hadn't lessened, but his reaction had. When people spoke to him, he did something radical. He listened fully, without planning his rebuttal. He waited, letting silence settle, before replying. And somehow his few measured words carried more weight than their 1,000. He had mastered the art of economy. He smiled more, argued less, and the world which once ignored him literally leaned in to hear him. This is the secret of influence. Those who master silence command presence without force. He had discovered the final secret. People remember not how loud you were, but how deeply and intentionally you made them feel. If this message speaks to the voice you're trying to find, hit subscribe and join others learning to build power and influence from stillness. Silence, he learned, is not the absence of sound, it is the training ground of strength. It is the gymnasium for the mind. In that powerful quiet, you learn which battles are truly worth fighting and which are merely distractions. You learn which fears are solid obstacles and which are simply illusions cast by a panicked mind. You learn which dreams are truly yours and which were simply handed to you by culture. You stop chasing cheap applause and start following a deep, unshakable purpose. When your mind grows still, your heart becomes the loudest thing in the room, and that's the voice that never lies. Silence teaches self-control, and self-control is the foundation upon which all unshakable confidence is built. He never became a guru, never wrote a book, and never gave a single speech about his journey. But everywhere he went, people felt something rare, a quiet, profound calm that asked no permission to exist. The world that once mocked his absence now desperately searched for its own. If this story moved you, then I'm giving you his challenge. You have to try this. Tonight, turn off everything: your phone, your screens, your music, and sit in complete, intentional silence for 10 minutes. It will feel impossible. Then come back to this video and tell us exactly what terrifying or beautiful truth you heard. Use the hashtag #SilentPower in your comment. I'll be here, and I'll read and respond to the very best ones. Let the silence begin.